Thanks for joining us for today's Secure Connections podcast, brought to you by IOTSA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm your host, Brian Sherman, and in today's segment, I'll be talking with Passportal President Dan Wensley. Dan's a long-tenured channel chief and a strong advocate of the MSP community, and he'll be sharing some of his insight on the managed services evolution, as well as passport security and document management. For those who may not have had the pleasure of meeting Dan Wensley, he's an accomplished and successful sales and marketing professional with over 20 years in senior and executive roles in the IT services channel. Dan was inducted into the MSP Hall of Fame, has been named a top 100 industry leaders in the know by CRN magazine, a top 250 channel expert by SMB Nation, and a North American channel chief by Everything Channel for 9 consecutive years. The complete list of his industry awards and accolades is much too long to cover in one podcast. So as an author, keynote speaker, and panel participant, Dan actively contributes to key channel advisory groups and major industry and vendor events. Dan is an alumnus of the Institute for Partner Education and Development, otherwise known as IPED, the 2005 Channel Masters Program, and has been a member of CompTIA for 15 years, serving on the board of directors for 3 and chairing numerous subcommittees. He was also the founding co-chair of the CompTIA Managed Services Executive Council and currently sits on the Cloud Community Executive Council. Dan's career has included executive leadership roles with Level Platforms, MSP Partners, Net Integration Technologies, and MCI WorldCom Canada. As Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Level Platforms, Dan leads the development of the company's brand and market success, establishing them as the leader in the managed services industry. Dan joined Passportal in 2015 as an investor and advisor, working with founder Colin Knox to map and build the company's future development and growth plans. In November of 2015, he was named president, and since that point, the company has grown from 6 to 20 employees with more than 1,000 partners in 32 countries. Passportal has distribution and integration partnerships with Autotac, ConnectWise, and others. Without any further ado, I'd like to welcome Dan Wensley to the Secure Connections podcast. Good day, sir.
Wow. Thank you, Brian, for the great introduction. I hope we have some time left over to have our conversation today, because a lot of exciting things going on, and that's a lot of history to cover there.
It is, and luckily I've been along at some points and had a chance to interact with you as I go. And yes, my voice is pretty much gone at this point. But so Dan, I always like to begin each podcast learning a little more about our guests and how they started their tech and their channel careers specifically. So where and when did you get your start in IT? That long-winded bio covered a little bit. I've been doing this for a long time, Brian, but it was interesting. My transition into IT evolved out of sort of a legacy industry, being in the newspaper industry. My last tenure and job prior to getting into IT was actually helping a subscription-based business, which happened to be legacy newspapers and the transition into IT, I thought was going to be impossible. I literally did not have an email address back in the early to mid 90s when I made the transition. And when I was interviewing to join an IT company, the only saving grace I had was that I understood subscription-based businesses a little bit, having been in the newspaper industry, and understood an ISP to be nothing more than a digital information technology delivery solution, much like newspapers were done. So that actually was the only ability for me to get into IT back in sort of the mid 90s, joining a web TV service software company that was trying to deliver with 33.6 modem speed internet over television, the early cursor to the Microsoft's web TV that came out in the late 90s. We may have gone over the head of a few people. First, we mentioned newspapers, which is kind of going away. And then second, we mentioned life without email. So I don't know that a lot of people identify with that anymore, but it's
certainly my children. You don't. I mean, I try to explain. I've got a 19-year-old son in university here in Waterloo, Canada, and trying to explain it to him, he just glosses over and doesn't understand, and asked me to transfer him some money. That's again, one of the advantages of the internet is easy transfer of cash to your kids.
What is life like without Google? I don't know that they would know that.
Yes.
So great. So when you and I first met, and I'm thinking it's been 15 years or more now, hate to date you and I, but managed services at that point was just gaining steam, and we've come a long ways, obviously, since then. Consolidation has significantly changed the look of the industry, and MSPs have had to up their game to remain competitive and profitable, especially the last couple of years. Experts are really suggesting we haven't seen anything yet as far as that transformation, especially with IoT, security, and other emerging technologies escalating that rate of change. So with that in mind, what must MSPs do? What must MSPs do to remain profitable and relevant to their customers in the next few years?
Well, I think this has been an ongoing sort of theme. I mean, when getting into the channel for me was really happened when I joined MCI WorldCom back in 2000. And what's interesting to me, Brian, is the more things change, the more they stay the same. The channel opportunity, the reseller back in those days who transitioned to a value-added reseller and a solution provider, we have all been set with both risk and opportunity in our industry. And the speed of technology change and development has really been at the forefront. And I think, we all saw this really come to fruition. And probably the best example of it was, as you said, the evolution to managed services, the technologies that came into play. I was on the remote monitoring and management side in the RMM space, but there was all of us vendors in that space, the PSAs, the ConnectWise, the AutoTask, the TigerPaws. Those were technology, that was made available to the channel to better their businesses. So I think, we say we go through all these hype cycles every couple of years, cloud, back to the internet and what it was going to do for technology companies and service delivery models. So some might say IoT is, wow, things have changed and now we're really going to accelerate. I think the rate of acceleration and adoption has quite honestly been pretty aggressive but steady over the last 10 to 15 years. And we've seen that movement to cloud. We've seen that movement to managed services, and we're now seeing it in the Internet of Things. And this is where, an organization like IOTSA coming in at this time is really helping propel those opportunities for us as an entire industry. And even what we do at Passportal, we'll talk a little bit about this, but there is a time and a place for this type of technology evolution. And I think it does continue to happen rapidly. Do I think it's anything different than what it was a decade ago when we got into managed services? No. The consistency is it's the need to change and adopt technology and value proposition that MSPs, as we now call them, are delivering to their clients.
And it really comes down to the business value as well, right? What are they doing? What do their clients need? And how can those two groups, work together to help the end client become more profitable themselves, more operationally efficient, et cetera? That part hasn't changed.
Oh, couldn't agree with you more, Brian. All of the adoption of new technology, service delivery model, solutions, services has all been predicated at the forefront of what do our customers need? What do small, medium business and enterprise and mid-sized businesses require to grow their businesses? As you said, the new workforce is not operating today the way we did 20 years ago. They certainly know what email is. They certainly know the value of technology and what it does for their businesses. And they're looking for that competitive advantage to continue to move forward. And it's the obligation and opportunity of the IT services channel to deliver those solutions to them, make them aware of them, to help them succeed in their businesses, which in turn obviously drives success for the MSPs themselves.
And going back to the time before email, businesses didn't have to worry as much about compliance and those issues as well, which really ties into cybersecurity. So the security really is a multi-level concern. that's one of the things we're here to talk about today. But I've heard it's really all too easy for MSPs to put their customers at risk unintentionally. And I say that because especially when it comes to compliance, it can be a concern. But which of their own internal practices should providers be scrutinizing and, if needed, improving?
Yeah, I think this has been an area that we've seen a lot of change, and certainly something. This is our focus, obviously, at Passportal, Brian, is that as MSPs evolved over the last little while, one of the things that we did in that evolution was we brought client data, information, and insight in-house. The biggest transition, broken down to the bare essentials of managed services, is no longer do we go out to a client with a truck roll and fix their computers and their stuff, on site. It's all been now a network operations center using remote monitoring and management tools to monitor, alert, and all of that started pulling data back into the MSP at an unprecedented rate. And I mean, the IT industry has done, in my opinion, an outstanding job making that evolution. We now, we call them MSPs because they've made that transition, and that's all on them. They've taken the advantage of the technologies available, but they've really changed their business, their model, their value to their clients, and all the things we promised around RMM have really come to fruition. More uptime, more security, more value, more insight, more proactive versus reactive service delivery model. What we didn't look at back in those days was, well, wait a minute, we're literally, as an MSP now, pulling all of our client data, information, insight, passwords, everything into our own environments as an MSP. And did anybody stop to think about how are we securing all of that data internally? And that's really become both the opportunity now and the real risk. Every MSP out there, whether they've got 50 clients or 1,000 clients, now literally hold all of the data or access to those clients' data inside their own environments, whether it's in the RMM or in the PSA or in the technology that they use to deliver the service. What have we done to throw a firewall and security and process around protecting our customers now from even our own employees? Every MSP, I'm sure, would agree with me. One of the things we talk about when you go to your clients is the risk is actually from your employees, Mr. MSP. If they click on the wrong email, and there's all of these training courses to train the end user and the actual specific user on how to do security best practices, what have we done with our own technicians? And for Passportal, what really intrigued me, again, after spending nearly a decade in the managed services evolution, when Colin Knox, the CEO and founder of Passportal, first introduced me to his technology in 2011, it really took me back. It took my breath away a little bit, going, wow, you're right. We have an enormous security vulnerability here that even as an RMM provider, we're almost, propelling forward because we're holding all that data. Passwords have gone from spreadsheets into the RMMs, into the PSAs, but we haven't talked about the security, the encryption of those passwords, or more importantly, the access to those passwords. So I think that's where, again, there's so many great, and IOTSA has a lot of those vendors as a part of your membership who are talking about security delivery to the end user. There aren't a great deal talking about security internally to the MSP. And is that where the risk may lay?
So if you think back, we always referred to eating your own dog food as more of a product and software kind of issue with MSPs. But it sounds to me like it needs to be taken a step further with practices and processes that are done internally too. If you're recommending them to clients, make sure that you're implementing them yourselves and following suit and working closely with employees to make sure they have the training. Is that a fair assessment?
I think that's absolutely dead on. And it's what's really fulfilling about this is at the very basic level, if you're securing your client's data better internally, you're actually providing more value to your client immediately. We all get caught up in, okay, what's new? What am I going to offer? What am I going to deliver? What service am I going to deliver? By simply adopting these technologies internally, you're actually delivering more security and more value to your clients. And the other side of that benefit is that the MSP themselves become more operationally efficient, and each technician is now given access to the right credential at the right time. Every MSP, I'm sure, will agree with me. There are times when our technicians who have a ticket, everything's worked perfectly, don't have the right credential to access the environment that they need to resolve a problem with. So we eliminate that as well. So there is such a three-pronged benefit to providing better internal security and operational efficiency for you as an MSP internally, and that value obviously does transition over to their partners and their customers.
So Dan, what is the operational impact from poor password security and access methodologies?
It's really everything that goes against the mantra of an MSP. The MSP, the whole evolution was designed to be more operationally efficient, provide more services, more proactive services in a more timely fashion to our clients. What happens very simply with passwords and how they're stored and how they're accessed is that they're not kept up to date. And I won't even talk about the security vulnerability of that for a moment, but the simple operational efficiency of your technicians, that's the mantra of MSP. That all breaks down if the correct password isn't stored and accessible by the technician immediately. What we see happen is a lot of time wasted in just the access to the data and the information they want. If it's kept in an Excel spreadsheet or even in your PSA or your RMM, we're not diligent about keeping it up to date. And it's obviously changed when we can't keep it up to date. And then the next technician comes in, and that's not even at the tipping point of, do I have the right technicians with the right access? Do I want to protect certain technician access to certain passwords or environments? Do I have a tech who's not qualified to be working on a RAID array? Well, what better way to protect your client from a unlicensed or incapable technician of working on a RAID array than to lock them out of the password itself? So there are so many advantages to just better hygiene of access control and security management from a password perspective for the MSP. That's what we're so excited about, what our partners are seeing at Passportal.
That's a great point. So when MSPs themselves adopt better security and operational standards in their own businesses, how can they leverage those internal improvements to increase the sales with their clients and their prospects, to sell a little deeper, but also to sell into new businesses?
Yeah, it's a real differentiator. Back in the day, being an MSP was a differentiator. Using, hey, I do remote monitoring and management. We have a new ticketing system. A lot of MSPs learned early on that was a value. They were changing their business model. And in order to get customers to adopt managed services business model, they had to position it as value. And the same thing goes with password security. It's a differentiator. There are far too many MSPs out there who do not encrypt their client data and their client passwords, who do not protect their clients from their own technicians. So those who do can confidently walk in to any customer and say, we hold ourselves to a higher standard than perhaps our competition, because we ensure that the technicians that we utilize to keep your infrastructure up and running are also prevented from being a security vulnerability to your business. So it's a differentiator, it's a different value, and not to mention, they're more operationally efficient. We're going to talk about documentation here in a minute, but just having access to the right credential at the right time is an operational efficiency and a differentiator over the competition. And it will become table stakes, Brian, much as like we were talking about in the early days of managed services, we believe the majority of IT service providers within X period of time would be operating an RMM and a PSA. And I think that is absolutely true today. And there was a lot of naysayers. Oh, it's not going to happen. No, it became table stakes. If you're not encrypting your customers' passwords and operationally protecting the security of your client data internally, that is going to end at some point. It will be table stakes for every IT service provider globally at some point. We hope it happens as rapidly as possible, and it should, but adoption curves are adoption curves, and we're seeing great success with that adoption, but quite honestly, it should be a lot more.
So the adoption curve, it sounds like, should start internally for MSPs, and then it makes a familiarity too with the sales team, the support team, everybody that's using it. That familiarity helps to sell it and to not just consume it, but to be more passionate about it when you're dealing with clients and prospects. It sounds like.
Yeah, and when Colin first initially built Passportal, it was solely built on the foundation of this is an operational deficiency and inefficiency in his MSP that he identified. And he used the best PSA and the best RMM and was an award-winning MSP, but he saw this as a vulnerability and an operational deficiency in his business, couldn't find a solution, so he built it. Where Passportal has evolved to over the last number of years is the ability to deliver password security services to clients. So we do that with our automated password reset solution, available through an app, which is just doing phenomenally well with partners. And again, it addresses a very simplistic problem of a simple password reset, it's amazing when you dig and look under the covers a little bit. Password reset is something that MSPs can handle today and are handling today. Customer forgets their password, they call into your beautifully set up network operations center, they talk to a technician, the technician has a nice ticket that's generated out of the PSA tool that they're using, they go into Active Directory, they reset the client password, and off they go. Well, how much time, how much effort, how much downtime, how much frustration, and what was the security vulnerability of delivering the service that way? And it's astronomical, all of the impact all of those factors have on a simple password reset ticket. And I'll maybe go to the head end of it with security. The fact that any technician in most MSPs organization can arbitrarily change a password in Active Directory and then communicate that either verbally or email or text to hopefully the right individual at the other end is a security flaw and a time waster. And our solution allows MSPs to deliver password reset solution more securely, more affordably, more effectively, with less downtime for the end user. I mean, again, it's a win-win-win for everybody, and it's a better service. It's just like I used to roll a truck to fix a network, and now I can do it from my network operations center, and many times I can do it autonomically thanks to the technologies that we use as an MSP. So, we're in the early stages of this growth curve in this area around security, but the opportunity and the impact for both the MSP themselves and the end user is really quite staggering. You would think we'd run out of good things to do to improve our industry with technology, but we're really, at the forefront of some of these great solutions.
So Passportal is one of those that is truly channel built from the ground up, and that makes a nice differentiator as well, intuitive solution. So you had mentioned, you brought up documentation management a couple of minutes ago. So let's shift the conversation to that point. What does that service provide to an MSP, and how do their customers benefit, Dan?
So again, documentation management is a platform solution that is, again, really evolved as managed services did, again, and full credit to every MSP out there and full credit to the channel for the amount of transition that this industry has gone through over the last decade, making the transition to managed services. But the goal always was operational efficiency and value to client and time to resolution. Documentation management really is broken down to just operational efficiencies. The technologies that are available today are doing all these great things with, again, RMM and PSA, but there was a missing link of just straight documentation and process flow. And that really evolved over the last couple of years where, yeah, we've got this all dialed in, but do I know for sure as an MSP that every technician, no matter which ticket they pick up, are following the best practice policy and procedure that we want to deliver the most consistent service to all of our clients? And the answer quite often became no. Although it was documented somewhere, it wasn't readily accessible to each technician 100% of the time. Documentation management is a playbook, and there's lots of them out there as far as building a playbook, but where did it reside? How easily was it accessible to the field, or what we now refer to as the NOC technician, so that they can deliver the most economical resolution to any ticket? So documentation management just became the policy and procedure and access point. What we're really excited about and what we've done at Passportal is merge the value of password security and operational efficiency you get out of that with the standardization of documentation and policy and procedure, workflow. So we integrated the security, the password with the workflow that documentation delivers to an MSP, giving you the best of both worlds. You've got your PSA, you've got your RMM, now you've got your data and technician access securely locked down. And also now we've added in the integration into documentation management. So whether they're going through the process and they need a password, they can now securely access that as well.
Great. I'm going to shift gears again to talking about future here. So cybersecurity and IoT are the real differentiators today. Obviously with IOTA, we've been focusing on that, but we're hearing it from providers, from the vendors in the space. There's a tremendous opportunity. It's much like managed services was 10 or even 15 years ago. But well, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but where do you see the biggest opportunities for MSPs in the next few years?
The more things change, the more they stay the same. The biggest opportunities is to stay in the hype cycle, not ahead of the hype cycle, and really to evolve. There is no question cloud, security, IoT are the hype cycles that we're in. What's important, in my opinion, is that every MSP adopt the appropriate amount of new generation, new services, and new value at the right time. As I mentioned on the outset, I got into internet on TV back when modem speeds were 36.6, and I remember our 2.0 was coming out with the 56K modem speed, and well, were we ahead of the curve? Absolutely. Now, internet on television with Netflix and everything else, it's right there, it's readily available. Well, you're talking 25 years later. So Internet of Things, we all see it. It's happening today. It's an opportunity. And that's why, the road shows IOTA is doing and we're participating in are keeping that conversation at the forefront. I truly think the ongoing opportunity for the channel is to adopt technologies that can be and are being adopted in the market today. And there's lots of great, pioneers who do the first thing that comes out of the jar. But, is that the best solution for you? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. There's been, pioneers who've been extremely successful. But the opportunities, stay educated on IoT, stay insightful of what the services are that can be added to that. But don't look so far forward that you're missing the next step that's right in front of us. And in our humble opinion, password security is one of those as a good example of this is something that is in front of us, is affecting both the MSP and their clients every single day today. So before we get launching into, I'll also monitor your Nest solution and make sure your house doesn't overheat while you're at work. Yeah, that might be coming and probably will and is, and maybe some are being successful with that now. But there's some basic blocking and tackling opportunities that are available to us. And I think that's both the challenge and the opportunity, again, for the channel. And what I've seen over the last 25 years is they've done a masterful job looking at the right thing to do at the right time. Not everything has gone perfectly, and we've had some trial and error from time to time, but all in all, as you and I have a relationship that goes back that many years, I have a relationship that goes back that many years with a lot of the channel partners, and watching the evolution of their business has just been a real privilege and a lot of fun to watch them navigate through these technologies.
And I've always heard it described as the role of the MSP, and even in VAR in his day, was to be the innovator for SMB. Not necessarily the first, but being able to keep their customers on top of the game. And that's kind of the roadmap I've always tried to follow is keeping that perspective. But so before we close the podcast, what is Passportal doing to help its partners take advantage of opportunities, and any other final thoughts you may have, Dan?
Yeah, thanks. I mean, our focus at Passportal is really to ensure that we're delivering value to the partner and helping him take a step that is very tangible day one. We're not at the bleeding edge of technology anymore when it comes to password security. There is immediate value, and we base the company on three principles. One, we want to help every partner lower service delivery costs and become more operationally efficiently internally. Two, that is all predicated on security, both internally for the MSP and value that they deliver to their customer. And three is to deliver incremental services and value to clients with our platform. So those are the three things that we focus on every day. And I think that's for most MSPs have been successful over the last 15 years. Security, whether it's security or some other technology service, but value internally to your business and value externally to your clients. You stay focused on those two things, and that breeds success.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you. So on behalf of IOTSA, I'd like to thank Dan Wensley, President of Passportal, for joining us today, and appreciate those of you who tuned in to listen to our discussion. I'd also like to encourage our listeners to take a few minutes and check out the great cybersecurity practice building content on the association's website. Go to iotssa.com. Thanks again. Please have a fantastic and highly secure day.